So, if you couldn't tell from my background, which is different from the last video I posted like a year ago now, um, I moved, but this time it wasn't like a couple blocks away in Toronto. I moved across the ocean, and now I work at Penguin Random House, UK. But if this is the first time you're seeing my face, hi, I'm Paige. I do content about books and publishing. I say do, I did, I'm trying to do again. And last September, I moved to the UK to work in publishing here. And if you want to know more about how I got into the industry, I have a whole video on that you can watch. I haven't really given much of an update on where things are, what I'm doing. So I thought I would finally sit down now that I feel fully settled into this new life and tell you guys all about what I've been up to. So a brief rundown. I started off as an editorial intern at Doubleday Canada when I was 22. I think I was still 22 at the time. And so that led to my first role in publishing, which is as a social media coordinator. I loved that job. I did the social media channels for Doubleday Canada and for Appetite, which is a cookbook imprint. And then I transitioned into coordinator for the brand team. I can't remember what my exact title was at this point. It was a made up, all titles are made up titles I've learned over the years. So I moved into the brand teams. I worked on Penguin Random House Canada's channels, and I worked on the website. I did a lot of copywriting and I did influencer work there. And I moved up in the ranks through that team. And then the pandemic happened. And during the pandemic, my manager went on mat leave, which led to a promotion for me into a manager position. And I was really happy doing what I was doing. It was a good amount of responsibility while still being hands-on, which was really important for me. I love being creative in my job. With all of those transitions and all of that growth, how did I end up in London in 2024? Well, 2 years ago, my friends and I went on a trip to London. It was midway into the pandemic. It was one of the first places that reopened really that we could travel to without having to test, which was really expensive in Canada. And I vividly remember the moment. I had recently come back from Barbados from visiting my family, and I was just so happy to be like out of the city because I'd been in Toronto for almost 3 years at that point, like not leaving it besides going to a little cottage trip every now and again. So I was talking to my roommate at the time, flatmate now, Jess, and we were talking about wanting to go to Europe, go to the UK. So I asked her, I was like, I'm ready to, I've just come back from this trip, but I need to start planning my next one. I need to go out to the city again. Are you serious about wanting to go to London? And she said yes. So I had also had a couple other friends that I'd mentioned this idea to, and I made a group chat with all of us, and I said, my Amex is on the table, who's coming with us? And then from March to April, we spent 4 weeks split up across Edinburgh and London, and it was a fantastically, gloriously chaotic and messy time. And I remember being here and just thinking, this is a vibe. I could see myself being here. And it had always been in my mind that London might be a place that I end up working in publishing, especially when I was living in Barbados when I first had the idea that I wanted to work in publishing. London felt like the obvious place to do it. It was that or New York. And I'm not living in America. Sorry to all my American followers. That's just not happening. I'm used to free healthcare, although I still technically am paying for it as an immigrant now. But the real moment I think that really planted the seed in my brain was we had really bad Wi-Fi at our second Airbnb, and Jess and I were working some of the days. So we finangled our way into getting into the UK offices for Penguin here through one of our coworkers who used to work here. And it was just a stunning space. They had a cafe on the ground floor. They had their own like canteen area where you could grab lunch for really cheap. And it was like a nice collaborative working space on the floor that we were on with Michael Joseph at the time. And I remember being like, I could see myself working here. And it felt so big and different from how it felt in Canada, which feels like it's a smaller industry. So it just feels a little bit less of like the grand idea that I had when I was younger of what publishing could be. It felt a lot closer to what the UK looked like. I brought it up with everyone and I said this is something I was seriously considering doing. And basically from the moment we got back, I started planning my life to be like, okay, so if I did make this move, what would it look like? What were the steps I would have to take? Short answer is the youth mobility visa. And clearly I stuck to the plan. Luckily, it kind of all fell into place the way it was supposed to. And I feel like part of it is like because I was actively pursuing this idea, I took the steps that I needed to to facilitate it. I won't lie and say that the whole process has been easy, because it hasn't been. There's been a lot of stressful moments. There's still stressful moments. Inherently, when you're in a place where you don't have as many rights as you had when you're living in a country you are a permanent citizen of, is alienating in some ways and it's frustrating in some ways. There's no sense of security, like inherent security in your life. And that's something I've been learning to deal with. And I won't lie, I miss my therapist every day, because I really had to get my mind in order before I made this big life change, and things have kept changing since then. But I also can't say that I regret this choice at all. I was at a point in my life where I was very comfortable, and I could have just continued living the way I was living. I could have kept progressing the way I was progressing, with the friends that I had, with the family that I had, like the situation I was, like my living situation. It was all just so neat and well laid out before me. I needed to challenge myself. I also knew that. I knew that if I ever wanted to grow any further than I had at the time, staying in that very comfortable bubble, as nice as it would be, was not the way to do that. So I am so glad that I was able to push myself, and I have taught myself that I literally can survive wherever I am. There's always a way to survive in a situation. Not to say I was in dire straits or anything. It just, it's funny to move. I feel like now that I've challenged myself, I have a lot more belief in myself and the things that I can handle, which is always nice to have. And it's also been really exciting working in publishing here. It is very different to working in Canada, and I have learned so much since I've been here. And I've also been able to realize how much I did know and the skill set I did have from Canada itself. So the real question probably is, how did you find your job in publishing? How did you make that transition over into the UK? Because it's already hard to get a job in publishing in general. How do you do it when you literally are not even from the country that you are trying to get the job in? Well, I told my manager April 2023 that I wanted to move to the UK, and that I was actually planning to do that in 6 months. I initially was like, if I can keep my job in any way and work remotely, that would be stunning. I understand there's tax obligations, legal things that would have to be situated in order for me to be able to do that. But we had other members of the team who were currently working in the UK, so I wasn't sure if it was going to be that much of an issue. Turned out they think my job cannot be done remotely. So I stuck to my guns, and I was like, you know what? I'm moving. So I will be trying to find a job in the UK traditionally, the way you did, just cold applications, baby. And luckily, my exec team was actually really supportive of this transition. They knew that like it was a step in my career that I could take to learn so much from, and if I eventually came back to Canada, then I would have all of this like knowledge from working in a way bigger version of our industry. I was able to apply both internally through our PRH, like our job network. If you apply for a job while you still work at one of our global companies, it counts as an internal application even if you're not in the country. And I also applied to other big publishers as well, and I got interviews to almost every job that I applied for, which is lovely. It means my cover letter writing skills are still up to par. I did interviews for a bunch of jobs, but nothing felt quite right, because a lot of them were very specific to one niche of my skill set, which I'm a sort of a jack of all trades within the social media and influencer space, but not hyper specific. Like I only do newsletters or I only do social. I do a little bit of everything. So I found like there was a little bit of a sticking point with that here, because I feel like a lot of jobs are very specific in terms of the channels that you work on. So nothing was really sticking. But then I saw the job that I'm in now, which is brand and social media manager, which was basically what I was doing in Canada. And I just knew in my soul, like, this is a job I'm going to get. This is a job that I know with 100% confidence I can do, and it will be different because it's for an imprint specifically, not for the wider company. And the books that they work on are so different from the ones that I was focusing on in Canada as well. And yeah, so now I work for Vintage. You can see some of the books in the background there, and I've been loving everyone here. I will always miss, get emotional. One of my friends from Penguin has just recently also left. She's still in Canada, but it's been making me think a lot about like that period of publishing, like when you first get into it. Those first 5 years were so magical, but also that period of time that I left, I'm never returning to. It's been easier and harder to know that I'm never returning to that exact team, because there really was like a heyday. Like it was giving the bold type. It was fire. But I'm also really loving the team that I have here. I'm starting to build like stronger relationships with everyone here, similar to the ones that I had with people in Toronto. And it's only going to get stronger because I've only been here 9 months, and I have at least 2 more years ahead of me on the youth visa. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about what it was like to make the transition, what it's like working here, all of that. Like I'll probably do more updates later on, but this is only supposed to be a quick video with an update. Leave them in the comments, but for now, um, we'll see where this goes.